A primer for getting close to men. Gentlemen, play this vid for the women you love and see if a good discussion doesn't develop about what you need. I'm Tom Golden. I'm from menaregood.com and also Men Are Good on YouTube. This is Paul Elam who's with us also, and Paul's from anearformen.com and An Ear for Men on YouTube. And Paul and I have been talking about the work that we've been doing, and we've been working with men for a long, long time, and have gotten to know the very important differences that men have from women. And one of the things that struck us was, we've never really focused on helping women understand men, and that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to try and have a look at what is it that women need to know about men in order to become close with them, in order to have an intimate relationship, which I think interests a lot of women. And a lot of women are not privy to the kind of information that Paul and I are going to be able to give you. So let's see where we go. Paul, where would you start?
Oh boy, where to start with that one, Tom? I think the first place that I would have to start, this is kind of a rough business, actually being honest with women about what they need to know about men.
Yes.
Because where I start is with the truth that women have been lied to their whole lives about men. They have been trained to lie to themselves about men and to lie to each other about men. They get information in places like Cosmo, 3 easy steps to snag your man, to have another baby, to make him burn with desire for you. And so for me, the tough part of this, if I'm talking to women honestly, if I'm not just trying to pick at them, is to try to help them understand just how distorted the landscape is in female culture in the West about men, and about how out of sync many of their ideas of what they want. I mean, again, we live in a world where women are trying to say things like, oh, I want a man who's really sensitive, when no, they don't. No, they really don't. Not
Right.
For the most part.
Right.
What they want is a man who is sensitive to them.
Yes. Yes.
And so when you tell men, I want a man that can express his feelings, but what you really mean is that I just want to hear the feelings from a man that make me feel good, which is what women are trying to do in this culture. Then if you've got a percentage of women who truly want more closeness with men, who truly want mutual respect, who want more intimacy, who want more friendship and more compassionate exchange in a relationship, part of that means unlearning a lot of crap about men that they've been fed their whole lives. And to be brutally frank, it means taking a look at their own sense of entitlement where it comes to men. And that is it's a tough order. When somebody says, I want help with something, and then the first thing you hear is you need to get off your high horse, that can be a real off-putting message.
Yes.
But if we're going to have enough respect for women to tell them the truth, that's part of the truth, is to understand that in a culture that lives on adages like happy wife, happy life, we've got a long way to go to help women understand that, if your edict is happy wife, happy life, you don't have any business. You don't need a better relationship. You need a better therapist, if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And so, most of the time you and I talk just about men and men's issues, and I think that's a badly needed thing. But when you came up with the idea to talk about, what women needed to hear, I'm all in for that. Because while I focus my attention on men and will continue to do that, this is also an important discussion. It just happens to be a real tricky one to have.
It is a little tricky. And, the thing that strikes me, just beyond what you've said, is that our media and the research is not talking about men and men's issues. They're simply not talking about it. It's not there. And there are so many things that have been researched. I mean, we've got tons and tons of research about how men are unique, how men do this, testosterone stuff, the in utero testosterone. There's all kinds of things that we know now about men that have never made it to the media. They just haven't made it. and know that women do not know about these things. And the kind of stuff that I teach about men and how they process emotions differently. And this just doesn't get out. It just doesn't get out to the general public. And so it leaves women thinking the default, which is what? Which is that we're all the same. And the only difference we have is in our socialization. That's the whole idea that people get from the media, is that it's our socialization is everything. And that is bullshit. It really is. It's just so misleading and so hateful in some ways, because we're so different, so incredibly different. And, the differences, I hope, is what we can talk about a little bit to help women understand some of what they don't know about men and the way they act.
And again, not to be the spoil sport in the arrangement here, but I think
go ahead.
In part of that conversation, we have to acknowledge that one of the reasons women are not given any real useful information about men is because they're conditioned to not want to hear it.
Huh.
One of the things that I've, in some of the women that I've talked to, and I do get women to write me and ask me for, there is a percentage of women out there, even with as brash and direct as I am in my talking about men's issues, that recognize that I am being honest and might have some useful information. So sometimes they write me and ask for advice about that. And one of the things that I have to tell them is that they have always held the cards in a relationship. But the truth of what they're able to create, women can have the power in a relationship to create almost anything they want.
Yes.
But it involves honoring the guy that they're with. It involves respecting him. It involves, it does not involve seeing how many of his friendships that she can push away. It doesn't involve forbidding him to partake in his hobbies. It doesn't involve a lot of things that so many women in this culture, once they get into a relationship, their view of men is that he's supposed to hang me around the moon, and everything he does in life revolves around me and making me happy.
Yes.
And that is a crazy.
Yes, I agree with that.
It's absolutely insane to think
go
that you're
both
going to build anybody that even likes you after a few years. And indeed might eventually hate the ground you walk on if that's your approach to a relationship.
Yeah.
But women do have the power.
They do. I would add one more thing to what you said. Honoring, you said, and what was the other one? Respect. I would add admiration.
That's the big one.
Those three things are the kickers. And I teach the women that I see in therapy, they say, how can I get closer to my man? I tell them, look, you need to admire him. And I ask them to think back to the time when they first met. And they think, oh, yeah. And you can see their faces relax, and they think about what was happening. And I said, did you admire him? Yes. And what was it you admired about him? They go through all these things that they liked about him, I say, tell them now. Tell them now. Tell them. Because what do men do as soon as they get admired? How does a man respond to being admired? What do you think he does? He relaxes and he opens up. I tell him, I say, if you want to know about this man, if you want to have him open up to you about something that's intimate to him, admire him. Because it's the best grease you got to open that man up. Because all of us men, as soon as we feel admired, what does that do to us? That keeps us from having to fight this hierarchy thing. Because ladies, here's a clue. Men are different from you, and they're different in one very important way, and that is they're based on hierarchy. Who is first, second, third, fourth, and fifth? And everything they do is connected to hierarchy. And this pisses you off sometimes, because he wants his team to win. He wants to win. He wants to be associated with the Super Bowl champion. He wants to be at the top of the hierarchy, and he's going to strive for status to make that happen.
There's another really big, what you're saying is right on the money. And I think it would really behoove women to understand, too, what the day-to-day, unlike all the mythology about men having power and all this crap that gets spread around, is that most men, most of them, go to work in an environment where they are in that hierarchy.
Yes.
And unless they're like the 0.2% at the top, they're not at the top of that hierarchy.
Exactly.
They go in the middle or lower or somewhere around that. And what are they doing? They're there all day pleasing a boss. They're all day biting their tongue, not saying what's on their mind. They're taking crap that they don't want to take. Because why? Because they need to provide for a family, because they need to take care of somebody. So they go in and they get the opposite of admiration in most cases. Now, if they're real high up the chain, then they have a bunch of employees and other people that are admiring them. But that is the absolute fraction, a small fraction of men in the workplace. So what men do is they go to work all day and they keep their head down and they keep their mouth shut and get their job done, and they take it and they take it, and then they come home. And what do you imagine happens emotionally, psychologically to a man when he comes home from 8 or 10 hours in that environment and he has a wife who's not pleased with anything that he's done?
Oh, God.
That is where men start turning sour on you.
Yes.
And women need to hear this.
Because that's his fuel. That's his fuel. His fuel is admiration and respect. And if you can keep some of that fuel going, you will find that he will do anything for you. He'll open up. He'll do whatever you need to have done if you admire and respect him and honor that he is a good man as he is. It's fuel. It's literally fuel. You know, we could talk for just...
That's what men do with women. They put all of that particular brand of emotional eggs in one basket with one woman. And so she has the power when he gets off work and comes home to give him the admiration that is missing in all likelihood in his work life. But his home becomes a refuge in that way. But when you see, and you can see this across Western culture, men leaving their jobs and hitting bars.
Yes.
Because they don't want to come home.
Right. Why not?
Chris Christopherson wrote a great song about a man named Casey, and the line is seeing his reflection in the lives of all the lonely men who reach for anything they can to keep from going home.
Huh.
And this scene is written in a bar.
Yes.
And it's about these men that they leave these jobs that are sometimes soul crushing, and then their refuge is in a bar getting drunk, because they know when they get home it's nag, nag, bitch, bitch.
Yes.
You're not doing enough. Why don't you do more? Why didn't you get a promotion? When are we going to buy another house? When are you going to do this?
And the should word.
Yeah, the should, the should, the should. How can women expect men, when that is the reality of their existence, to do anything but want to maybe have an affair?
Yeah.
And a lot of times when men have affairs, this is what is driving it.
Yes. Yes. My wife and I took a walk before we started talking here, and I asked her, I said, Darby, I'm going to do this talk tonight with Paul about what would help women get closer to the men in their lives. What should I tell them? You know what she said? She said, tell them to just not nag.
Man. All right, score 10 points for Darby.
Yes, Darby's a blessing in so many ways, but not that she doesn't nag at all. But I mean, it's in some ways, you see, that's the problem. Is nagging is built into women because
it's in their
in order
DNA.
to survive, we've had to have one party who complained about what resources are needed, and the other party to try and supply those resources. You know. And that's the woman is the complainer about, we don't have this resource, we need this done, we need that done, we need this done, and he's supposed to get things done, you know. And so evolutionarily, I mean, it's been the women who have had to do this nagging and had to do the complaining, but it gets overdone sometimes. It goes beyond the line, and it just drives men nuts because they need this admiration, they need this respect. When they get that, ladies, oh God, when they get that, they'll do anything. They'll do anything. You know, just like, what is it that will make the women do anything? What will make the women do anything is when they feel cherished and they have dominion over their own lives. A man who can make a woman feel cherished is a man who has a woman who will do anything for him. You know, because when she literally feels cherished, it's like when he feels admired. When she feels cherished, boom, she's there because that's what she needs.
But here's where I'm going to get in trouble again.
Get in trouble, Paul. Go ahead.
How am I going to get in trouble? No. All these are, you're absolutely right. I mean, the psychobiology behind this is, I think, rock solid.
Fascinating.
Women complain and nag because their job basically is to control the garnering of resources and making things happen.
Yes.
And that is what they do. And they are better at it when they do feel cherished.
Yes.
But there is also a challenge, I think, here for women to consider. Find a limit for your need for cherishment. Cherishment is a big order, because we have cherishment when we're infatuated early in relationships, the first several months, maybe the first year.
Right.
It's all roses and hot sex 4 times a day and can't wait to get the door closed. And he thinks that you're just the best thing that's ever happened in the universe. That is not a realistic expectation for a long-term relationship. Infatuation fades. The routine does set in, the drudgeries of life set in, and it becomes impossible for somebody to maintain that level of intensity of, I can't wait to get home so I can tell my partner how great she is.
Right.
And I think that women also are going to do well to measure their expectations and there, to me, lies the real problem. We have set insane expectations on men. I mean, and there's a whole industry, Cosmo magazine, how to get your man to do this or that. There's been 10,000 articles, how to make him.
Yes.
And all of it comes back to what looks like a sense of narcissistic gratification. I think women would do well to examine that in themselves and how realistic their expectations are. Because if your expectation, like I said, if your expectation is for somebody to think you hung the moon and every waking breath of their life, they're just can't wait to do something nice for you, you don't need a relationship. You need some therapy, and a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, I would go along with that 100%, as long as we also say that men need to temper their need for admiration in the same kind of way.
Absolutely right.
But on the other hand, there's been research that's been very clear that says relationships that work do one thing. They know from the research that they do one thing, and that is there is at least a 5-to-1 ratio of positive things said to negative things. And the healthy relationships that flourish are the ones that have the 5-to-1. And of course, every nagging counts as one, So it's got to be a 5-to-1 ratio. If you have less than 5-to-1, the chances of divorce go skyrocketing up. If you have, I think the disastrous relationships, I think it's 1.38 to 1 or something like that. But the 5-to-1 is the key right there. So ladies, 5-to-1. Say 5 nice things and boom, get the 1 negative in, And that works then, because if he's got those 5 positives, he's going to be able to hear that 1 negative.
I agree. It's sensible, Tom, that men would temper their expectations of adulation and admiration.
That's what happens in a healthy relationship. Because honeymoons are temporary. They're not something that lasts a lifetime. But a relationship does last. And we learn how to temper our need for admiration. We learn how to temper our need for cherishment. But both parties do it. It's not just one or the other. And then
I agree, but tonight I'm talking about advising women, so I'm going to stick to it.
Stick it to them, Paul.
Not that I disagree with you. I do. I agree with you totally. But what can a woman do? She can temper her need to be cherished.
Yes.
She could go shoot for that 5-to-1 ratio Tom just talked about.
Yes.
She can be a little more self-sufficient. She can look at her expectations and then just honestly ask yourself, how mature is this expectation? How adult-like is it? Is it realistic?
Yes.
And to live with the answers you get, because if you're being honest, you know that men and women both are flawed and have crumbs, and we're a mixed bag.
Yes.
And it takes real work to get along. But if you don't expect somebody else to keep filling this hole in you, either sex,
Yes. Yes.
you've got a lot better shot at
Absolutely.
something healthy and close.
Yes. I quite agree. I would ask her too to have conversations with him. Talk to him and say, do you think I nag too much? What does it do to you when I nag you? Open things up like that. Hear his feedback about what's going
God,
on.
I don't think I've ever had a woman ask me that.
Really? My wife is able to do that.
Oh,
She's
I've
able
never,
to do that.
well, and no dispersions on my partner, but I have never, ever had a woman in my life ask, do I do this too much or that too much?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, ladies, you can be first. Get out there and be first, because it helps. And when the guy hears you ask questions like that, his ears are going to perk up and he's going to want to talk about it. When he hears you taking responsibility for some of what's happening in the relationship, he's going to go, oh, damn. Yeah, that does bother me sometimes. And he's going to tell you a little bit more. And then maybe he's going to tell you a little bit about what bugs him. That's what makes a relationship work. Because relationships are based on the relationship cycle. The relationship cycle is real simple. We have this honeymoon. 12 o'clock, we have this honeymoon. Everybody's happy. It's all good. Then around 4 o'clock, somebody shits their pants, right? And there's a problem. So from 4 to 8, you've got this, God damn it, you son of a bitch, you kiss my ass, right? But then the possibility exists at 8 o'clock that one person's going to say, I really screwed that up. And the other person's going to say, yeah, you screwed it up, but that's okay. Let's go forward. Then, if you do that, you go back to 12 o'clock again. You go back to the honeymoon.
Or at least 11:30.
11:30 is good enough. And you go around and around, and good relationships go through this cycle every day. Every day. You're going to have troubles. You're going to have crap that goes on. You're going to fuck up, and so's he. But you go through this cycle where someone admits, yeah, I screwed up. Then someone else says, okay, but let's go ahead. They forgive, and boom, you're back at it again. Good relationships, which have the benefit of a shared history over years, have done this thousands upon thousands of times. When you do this 1,000 times in a relationship, you start to trust your partner. You start to trust them to be able to take responsibility for their end, for their shit. So that's what it's all about, is learning how to do this. And what I'm saying is, you can start this talk by saying something to him about, do I nag too much? Does my nagging bother you? What is nagging anyway? Just get the ball rolling. Oh, the other thing you can do, ladies. Here's one thing you can do. First, always sit on his right-hand side. Do not sit on his left-hand side. Because research is very clear. Almost all men, take in more from their right ear than they do from the left. So sit on his right and bring a koosh ball.
Unless you're nagging, then sit on his left.
Yeah, that's good. Bring a koosh ball. Bring a koosh ball. Have you heard about this, Paul?
No, I don't think
bring
so.
a koosh ball and you play catch in the living room. Back and forth. Back and forth. This is almost as good as going out and shooting baskets. Because if you really want to talk to him, go out and shoot baskets. Go out and play catch, because he's going to be more open to you if you can honor that he has a different way to process things. And his way is shoulder to shoulder. Guys get close in a fishing boat by doing nothing all day. They don't talk. They don't face each other. They just sit together, right? So you can do the same thing with a little koosh ball and say, let's play catch. Boom, back and forth. He's going to freak out at first, but he's going to like it. Because as you play catch, you can start to talk about things. And you can see what happens after that. There's all kinds of fun things that happen. But the koosh ball, just like shooting baskets, is going to help you move a little bit into his world. That's where you want to be. You want to be in his world. Because if you just talk like Cosmo says, and you just ask him feeling-oriented questions, you're screwed. He's not going to be able to hear that. And if you want more information, read my books.
Yeah.
The Way Men Heal, Swallowed by a Snake. And the last one I wrote was, what's it called? Helping Mothers learn how to be closer to their sons. It talks about all these ideas about how you can get close, because guys are different. They're so different. And don't let me go on and on, Paul.
No, you're doing fine. And I agree totally that getting involved in activity with men is that's how men connect.
Yes, exactly.
It's how they connect to each other. It's how they best connect to women. Be involved. Be surprised what you can get accomplished in a fishing boat. But another thing I wanted to point to, and it's something you touched on about the accountability. I asked for years and years and years and years in every group I did, and there was lots and lots of groups.
Yeah.
Getting men to get down to what their real frustrations were in relationships.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things, if not the biggest, that I heard year after year, decade after decade, from different generations of men, was their huge frustration was that their romantic partners, their wives, their girlfriends, whatever, refused to take responsibility for what they do.
Right, right.
And that, that old joke, I knew I married Ms. Right, I just didn't know her first name was Always. But there is a real serious part here, because what you do, when you can't take accountability for a mistake,
yes,
we've already acknowledged both of you are going to make mistakes. Both of you. It's unavoidable. You're human. You're going to screw up.
Yes.
But if you won't ever take responsibility, and I heard it put one way, that the most powerful 3 words in a relationship aren't "I love you," and they're not even "I forgive you." The most powerful 3 words are "I am sorry."
Huh.
That when you refuse to take responsibility for your actions, you are broadcasting a message to the person that they don't fucking matter. There's no other way around it.
Yes.
You ain't worth me taking, you're not worth my owning my shit. You never were. That's the message you're sending. And so if you're expecting your partner to want to get close to you, but you refuse to take responsibility for your mistakes, then you have two things there that are at total odds with each other.
Yes. And you never get past 8 o'clock.
No, you never will. It'll never happen.
You're stuck.
And of course, women are taught, I don't have to do much. I just have to sit here and be pretty. And that's the expectation on me. And you're the guy. You're supposed to take responsibility for everything. But for what it's worth to the women who end up listening to this, the most common frustration that I heard men express when they were in a very safe environment and would really talk about what bothered them the most is that they constantly lived with a message that nothing that was done to them mattered to the person doing it. And that is a real destructive message.
Yes.
You just can't expect much out of that.
That's exactly what I was talking about. That's what keeps you at 8, and you never get back to that place where you can resolve again. You just get stuck. You may pretend to get back to that place because he'll eventually just sort of stuff it, quit thinking about it, and then move on. And then it happens again, and he stuffs that, and then it happens again. And the next thing you know, he's got a drink. The next thing you know, he's got some drugs or another woman. Yep.
And I'm just telling you, if you want to know how to keep that stuff out of your marriage, I mean, some guys, we'll be honest, some guys, no matter what you do, if you pick the wrong guy, he's not going to be much of a partner.
Indeed.
But most guys, if they're treated with admiration and with accountability, they're going to flourish.
Yep. So ladies, maybe that's a good thing to ask your men, is to ask them what Paul is suggesting, and that is, do you feel like I apologize? Do you feel like I take responsibility for my side of things? That'd be a great question. I wonder what he'd say. Ask him tonight. Ask him tonight. See what he says.
Matter of fact, don't wait. Pause this video and get on the phone.
That's right. That's right. Pause it now. Indeed. Are we about there?
I think we are. I think it's a good start on this topic.
It's been fun. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, we absolutely will.
We'll have to do this again. And ladies, if you find this helpful, tell us in the comments. And come see us on Patreon. Paul and I both have Patreon sites. Patreon.com/menargood or Patreon.com/an ear for men, because we could really use your support. Good. Any final words, Paul?
Oh no, I think we said enough.
I think we've said enough.
We filled a few cups with this conversation.
But there's a lot more There's a lot more
Yes,
we haven't
there
talked
is.
about. Learning the intricacies of men and how they heal is so important for women. Because women, once they know how men heal from things, everything changes. Everything changes. They no longer expect him to talk, 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 talk. Anyway, maybe that's the next one, ladies. So keep
Yeah,
watching.
we should talk
Keep
about
watching.
that.
We'll do one of those next. And thank you very much for being with us. And you have a good night. We'll see you.
Good night, everyone.
Oh, and
Bye-bye.
men are good.
Yeah, they are.
We'll see you.